Following a shocking case of mistaken identity, the worlds of two lookalikes have been turned upside down. The ruthless CEO, Tari Okuta, stranded in the remote village of Ibere after losing her phone, grows increasingly frustrated as everyone insists on calling her by another woman's name. Meanwhile, the humble village girl, Efe, finds herself living Tari's luxurious life in the city, forming an unexpected bond with the very office cleaner, Amaka, whom Tari always mistreated. As Efe's deception deepens and Tari's desperation to return home mounts, a single phone call from Ibere revealed their paths are about to collide. Empowered by Amaka's startling intuition, Efe must now return to her village on a daring mission that will unravel a web of lies, unlock the secret of a unique pendant necklace, and reveal a mother's heartbreaking sacrifice that connects them all. Subscribe now and watch till the end to discover the earth-shattering truth behind the two identical faces. Efe sat at the large dining table, pushing her food around the plate. She couldn't eat. Across from her, Mr. and Mrs. Okuta watched her with kind, worried eyes. "Are you not feeling well, my dear?" Mrs. Okuta asked softly. "You've barely touched your food for days." Efe forced a small smile. "I'm fine, Mama, just not very hungry." But inside, her heart felt like a heavy stone. Every time they called her Tari, with so much love, she felt a sharp pain of guilt. She was lying to them. She was living in their house, eating their food, and they thought she was their daughter. At night, she lay awake in the big, soft bed, staring at the ceiling. Where was the real Tari? Why hadn't she come home or called? A terrible thought kept Efe awake. What if Tari was in trouble? What if she was hurt somewhere and Efe's pretending was stopping their parents from looking for her? Maybe they weren't searching because they thought their daughter was safe at home. But she wasn't. Their real daughter was missing, and Efe was the only one who knew. She was trapped. If she told them the truth, their hearts would break. They would be devastated, and she would be sent away, back to her hard life in the village, losing her only chance to find out about her own past. Why did she look exactly like Tari? Who was her real mother? But if she didn't tell them, and something bad had happened to Tari, she would never forgive herself. The weight of the secret was becoming too heavy to carry. She looked at the loving faces of the Okutas and felt like a thief, stealing a daughter's place. She was stuck between a terrible lie and a painful truth, and she didn't know what to do. The Grandmaster bedroom was quiet, but neither Chief nor Mrs. Okuta could sleep. Finally, Mrs. Okuta switched on her bedside lamp. "Are you awake?" she whispered. "Yes," he replied, his voice heavy. "I cannot stop thinking about her." "About Tari?" she asked. "Who else?" He sighed. "It is like the daughter we sent to Ibere never returned. We have a different woman in our home." Mrs. Okuta nodded, her eyes glistening. "It is more than just the adoption news changing her. This morning, I asked her if she wanted Michael to drive her to the club. She looked at me as if I was speaking a foreign language. 'Tennis?' she said. 'I don't play tennis, Mama.' She has been playing since she was 12. Mr. Okuta ran a hand over his face. "I know." At the office, she did not know the password to her own executive tablet. She called Francis Matthew. These are not small things to forget. It is as if the last 15 years have been erased. "And her manner," his wife continued, "she is so gentle, so patient. When the new intern spilled coffee, the old Tari would have fired her on the spot. This Tari helped her clean up and told her it was okay to make mistakes." A long, heavy silence filled the room. Do you think we broke her?" Mrs. Okuta's voice was barely a whisper. By keeping the truth from her for so long? Has the shock been too much? Is this a mental breakdown? Mr. Okuta reached for his wife's hand. I have been asking myself the same question. This seems deeper than anger. It seems like a genuine confusion, as if she is lost in her own life. What do we do? Mrs. Okuta pleaded. We cannot lose her. She is our child. We will not lose her. We will surround her with love. We will be patient. We will not pressure her with questions. Let us give her one more week. If she does not start to remember, we will seek professional help. But for now, we must show her that our love does not depend on her memory. It is constant. Mrs. Okuta leaned her head on his shoulder, taking a small comfort in his plan. But as she closed her eyes, the image of her daughter's sweet, confused smile haunted her. They were trying to love a stranger, back into being the daughter they remembered, and they were terrified. It might not be possible. Efe had asked the cook to prepare a special breakfast and set a place for two in the small sunroom. When Amaka arrived, she was hesitant, standing by the door in her simple uniform. Good morning, Ma, she said softly. Good morning, Amaka. Please, sit with me, Efe said, pointing to the chair opposite her. Amaka looked confused, but obeyed. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Efe's mind was racing. She had planned to tell Amaka everything, to confess the huge lie she was living. But now, with the old woman sitting right in front of her, the words were stuck in her throat. How could she say it? What if Amaka reacts in a way she does not expect or looks at her like an imposter? She would lose the trust she was already building. She pushed her food around her plate, her stomach in too many knots to eat. Amaka ate quietly, but noticed how the young woman simply stared at her full plate. The food remained untouched, growing cold. My daughter, Amaka said softly, breaking the silence. Why have you not touched your food? Is it not to your liking? Efe jumped slightly at the sound of her voice. Oh, no, it's fine. I'm just not very hungry. She tried to smile, but it looked more like a painful grimace. Amaka studied her face carefully. She saw the deep worry in Efe's eyes, and the way her hands trembled in her lap. This was not the confident, demanding Madame Tari she had known for years. You have not been hungry for many days now, Amaka observed gently. And you have not been yourself recently. Efe looked down at her hands, her heart pounding. This was her chance to confess, but the words still wouldn't come out. Amaka watched her quietly. She saw the worry in the young woman's eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly. Finally, Amaka put down her fork. Her voice was gentle, like a soft rain. My daughter, she began, you do not have to worry yourself like this. I have known since the first day you stopped the manager from shouting at me. Efe's eyes widened. Her heart beat very fast. Known what? She stammered. I have known that you are not Tari, Amaka said calmly. A wave of shock washed over Efe. She felt exposed. How? Was all she could whisper. A mother's instinct never dies, Amaka said, a deep sadness in her eyes, even if her children are taken from her by death. I once had twins, 2 beautiful baby girls. I lost them at birth, but that feeling, the ability to see the soul behind the eyes, it stays with you. The old Tari had a coldness in her gaze. You look at people with a kindness that shines from within. That is why I knew, from the very first day, that you could not be the same person. Efe was speechless. Tears filled her eyes. This woman had seen her truth all along and had said nothing. I am not here to judge you, Amaka said, reaching out to pat Efe's hand. I see a good heart in you, but this lie is eating you up inside. I can see it. You cannot find your own peace while you are living another person's life. For your own sake, you need to find the real Tari. You need to set things right. For Afe, it was like a door had been opened. The weight she had been carrying felt a little lighter. Someone knew her secret, and instead of anger, they offered understanding and advice. Amaka was not an enemy. She was an ally, and her words gave Afe the first real direction she had since arriving in the city. She had to find Tari. After her talk with Amaka, Afe felt a new strength. She was no longer alone. She had to find out what happened to Tari. She went into Tari's big office and picked up the phone. Her hands were shaking as she dialed the number for the local eatery in Ibere village. The phone rang for a long time before a man's voice answered. It was the manager. "Hello, who is this?" he asked. "Good afternoon, sir," Afe said, trying to sound calm. "This is Afe. Can I please speak with Stella?" There was a pause. "Afe, how are you? And hope there is no problem. Wait here, let me get her." Afe could hear him calling for Stella. Her heart was beating fast. Finally, Stella's voice came on the line. "Afe, oh my goodness, is it really you? Where are you? Are you okay? I didn't know how to reach you all this while." "I am safe, Stella," Afe said, feeling a rush of warmth from hearing her friend's voice. "I am in the city, and so much has happened, but that will be for another day." She took a breath. "Stella, I need to ask you something important. Is there a girl in the village? A girl who looks exactly like me?" Stella's voice became serious. "Yes, there is a girl who looks just like you. Her name is Tari. I actually thought you had come back and were acting strange. Everyone thinks it is you, but she acts very differently. She is rich and proud. Perhaps she is your twin." Afe's breath caught. It was true. "Where is she now, Stella? Is she okay?" "That's the problem, Afe," Stella said, her voice dropping to a worried whisper. "She went to visit your parents yesterday, Papa Kofi, but she never came back. No one has seen her since. I'm very worried about her." A cold fear spread through Afe's body. Tari was missing. She had gone to see Papa Kofi and disappeared. "Thank you, Stella. Thank you for telling me," Afe said quickly. "I have to go." She hung up the phone, her mind racing. The real Tari was in danger. She was last seen with Papa Kofi, a man who was capable of great cruelty. Afe knew what she had to do. She could not pretend anymore. She had to go back to Iberi and find Tari before it was too late. The silence in the dining room was broken only by the gentle clink of cutlery. Afe knew she had to speak, and that her words would shatter the fragile peace of the evening. "I need to go to Iberi," she said, her voice firm but gentle. Mr. Okuta put down his fork, his expression a mixture of deep concern and confusion. "Iberi? Tari, we've been through this. You told us that story before," he said gently, referring to her first trip as a painful lie. "You don't need to create another excuse to leave us." Mrs. Okuta's face was pale with worry. "Please, darling, we know you've been struggling since you found out you were adopted. We can work through this together, right here. You don't have to run away." Afe's heart ached. They thought her desire to go was another rejection, another symptom of her crisis. "This isn't running away," she insisted, leaning forward. "And it's not a story. I need to go there to secure the oil land for the company. It's a real business matter." "But you said that last time," Mr. Okuta replied, his voice soft but pained. "And then we found you working in a restaurant in the city, hiding from us. How can we believe this is different?" "Because I am different," Afe said, her eyes pleading for them to see the truth in her words. "I'm thinking clearly now. This is about our family's business. I started those negotiations, and I need to finish them. I need to prove to you and to myself that I can be responsible for our legacy." Mrs. Okuta shook her head. tears welling in her eyes. "We don't care about the business right now. We care about you. We just want our daughter back. These last few weeks with you have been confusing, but precious. We don't want to lose you again." There was a long, heavy silence. Mr. Okuta studied her face, seeing a sincerity that cut through his doubts. He let out a weary sigh, the sound of a father choosing to trust against his better judgment. "All right," he conceded, his voice thick with emotion. "If this is what you feel you must do to find your footing again, we won't stop you. But you will take security, and you will call us every day. Do you understand?" Afe nodded, a wave of guilt and relief washing over her. "I promise. I will finish this, and I will come back to you." As she looked at their anxious faces, her resolution hardened. She was using their hope for Tari's recovery as a shield, for her real mission, to find the real Tari and bring their daughter home. The next morning, as the city began to stir, Afe found Amaka in the grand lobby of the Okuta building, already mopping the floors. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, catching the dust motes in the air. "Amaka," Afe said softly, walking up to her. "I am going away for a short time." Amaka looked up, her kind eyes full of immediate concern. "Is everything all right, my child?" Afe leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I have to tell you something. I'm going to Ibede. I'm going to find Tari." A look of understanding and fear passed between them. But as Afe bent down to pick up her small travel bag, the simple necklace with the unique pendant she always wore slipped out from under her blouse, dangling in the air. Amaka's eyes locked onto it. Her face went ashen, all the color draining away in an instant. The mop handle clattered to the marble floor, the sound echoing through the empty lobby. "Amaka!" Afe screamed, her own shock forgotten. She dropped to her knees, cradling the older woman's head. "Help! Somebody please help!" The building security came running. Within minutes, an ambulance was called, and a distraught Afe gave instructions to the paramedics, her voice shaking. "Please take good care of her, and give her every medical attention she needs." As the ambulance sped away, Afe stood alone in the sudden quiet of the lobby, her fingers finding the necklace again. It was just a simple necklace, worn smooth with time. Why would it cause such a reaction? The mystery of her own life, which she had set out to solve, had just become infinitely more complex. This necklace wasn't just a part of her story. It was clearly a part of Amaka's too. This is a lead she must follow up with, after she is done with ensuring Tari was safe. The air in the small, windowless room was thick and hot. Tari sat on a dirty mat, her expensive clothes now soiled. The only light came from a crack under the heavy wooden door. The door creaked open. Papa Kofi stood there, with Uncle Ben and another man behind him. "Enough games, Afe," Papa Kofi said, his voice hard. He threw a paper and pen on the floor. "Sign the money over to us. It is our right. We are your family." Tari lifted her chin, her eyes flashing with a fire he didn't recognize. "I am not Afe. How many times must I say it? My name is Tari Okuta. My father is Chief Okuta of Okuta Oil. I have no idea who this Afe is." Papa Kofi let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. "You think because you somehow became rich, you can deny your own father? I took you in as a baby. I raised you. I fed you. And this is how you repay me? With lies?" "I am not lying," Tari insisted, her voice rising in frustration. "I only pretended to be this Afe to get the land deal signed. That was the plan. I never meant for any of this to happen." Uncle Ben stepped forward, his face angry. "So you used our family? You used your own father's name to trick us?" "Yes. No. It was just business," Tari cried out. "I told you I would give you what you deserved, a fair price for the land. But you cannot demand millions for doing nothing. That is not how business works. Business? Papa Kofi roared, his pride deeply wounded. You call family business? After all we have done for you, you are my daughter, and you will do as I say. I am not your daughter, Tari screamed, her own pride meeting his. When my real father finds you, you will all be arrested. You will lose everything. Her words finally broke Papa Kofi's patience. Fine, he snarled, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. If you are not my daughter, then you are a thief, and we deal with thieves here. You will stay in this room until you remember who you are, or until you sign that paper. He turned and stormed out. The door slammed shut, plunging Tari back into near darkness. The dusty road into Ibere felt both familiar and strange to Efe. It was the place she had been so desperate to escape, but now it held the key to the greatest mystery of her life. Her heart was pounding as she hurried to the small eatery. Stella was wiping down a table when Efe walked in. Her friend's eyes widened, and a wide, relieved smile broke across her face. "Oh, Efe, you came back," Stella exclaimed, dropping her cloth and rushing over to hug her. "When you called, I prayed you would come. I have been so worried." "Thank you, Stella. There is so much going on right now. I had to come." Stella pulled back, her expression turning serious and curious. "Oh, Efe, this girl, this Tari, she looks exactly like you. Not just similar, but exactly." Efe nodded. "It is like looking into a mirror." Stella's eyes grew even wider with the implication. "Efe, do you think, could she be your twin sister?" The question hung in the air. It was the same thought that had been haunting Efe. "It is possible," Efe admitted quietly. "We were both adopted." "She was adopted too?" Stella asked, her voice a whisper. "Yes," Efe replied, a sad smile touching her lips. "But that is a long story for another day. For now, we need to make sure she is safe. That is the most important thing." Stella nodded firmly, her worry for a stranger overriding her burning curiosity. "You are right. Let's go. We must face the Kofis." Together, the two women left the eatery and marched with purpose through the village. Their determined strides drew looks from the villagers they passed. They did not speak. Their shared mission was a silent understanding between them. Efe's heart thudded against her ribs, not just from fear of the confrontation, but from the terrifying hope that she was minutes away from meeting the other half of herself. They arrived at the Kofi compound. Without hesitation, Efe walked through the entrance, Stella a loyal shadow by her side. Mama Kofi looked up. Her eyes widened. Her jaw went slack, and the broom fell from her hands with a clatter. "Efe," she stammered, "but you are inside." Papa Kofi emerged from the main house, his expression cross. "What is all this noise?" The words died in his throat when he saw Efe. He stared, his face a mask of pure confusion and dawning horror. He looked from Efe to the locked storehouse, then back again. "There are two of them," Stella said, her voice sharp with accusation. "Where is the other one? The one you took?" Efe's gaze was fixed on the Kofis, the people who had raised her. All the fear and confusion boiled over into a hot, clear anger. "What have you done?" Efe's voice was low and trembling. "You have that girl locked up, don't you? You thought she was me." Papa Kofi found his voice, though it was weak. "She came here pretending to be you. She lied to get our land. She is a thief." "So you decided to be a thief too," Efe shot back, her hands curling into fist. "You kidnapped her. You were holding her hostage for money. What right do you have?" "The right of a father," Papa Kofi shouted, his own anger rising to meet hers. "After everything we did for you, we took you in. We raised you. You call that raising me?" Efe cried out, the pain of a lifetime finally bursting forth. You never showed me a single day of the love I have seen in that city. The Okutas, whose daughter you have locked away, they loved her even when they thought she was me. They were kind and worried and gentle. And you made me feel like a burden every single day. Nothing I did was ever good enough. You were never my parents. You were my jailers. Mama Kofi put her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock at the raw truth in Efe's words. Papa Kofi was speechless for a moment, stunned by her outburst. Finally, under the weight of her glare and Stella's, his shoulders slumped in defeat. We made a mistake, he admitted roughly. The girl in there was so proud, so arrogant. She denied us. She said her name was Tari Okuta. We thought it was you, our own Efe, denying your family because you had found riches. We thought we could make her see sense. We just wanted what was owed to us. You were owed nothing, Efe said coldly. Now you will unlock that door. You will let that woman go. Or I will go to the police and tell them everything, and you will learn what it truly means to be in a cage. Defeated and shamed, Papa Kofi slowly walked to the storehouse and lifted the heavy wooden bar from the door. The door creaked open, allowing a shaft of afternoon sunlight to cut into the dark, dusty room. Inside, Tari scrambled to her feet, squinting against the sudden light. She was ready for another argument, her face set in its familiar mask of defiant pride. But the words died on her lips. Standing in the doorway, backlit by the sun, was her own reflection. Tari froze. Her mind, sharp and logical, rejected what her eyes were seeing. It was impossible. A trick of the light, a mirror. But the image moved, took a hesitant step forward, and its eyes were wide with the same staggering disbelief. Efe stood rooted to the spot, staring into the room. The stories, the photographs, none of it could have prepared her for this. It was like looking at a living photograph of herself, yet different. The same face, the same eyes, but held with a posture of authority she herself had never known. She saw her own life reflected back at her, but lived on a completely different path. The world seemed to shrink to the space between them. The compound, the Kofis, Stella, everything faded into a blur. There was only the two of them, a silent question echoing in the dusty air. Tari was the first to break the silence, her voice a bare whisper, stripped of all its usual arrogance by sheer shock. "Who are you?" The sound of her own voice, yet not her own, sent a shiver down Efe's shine. She took a slow, steadying breath, her own reply just as soft, but filled with a profound certainty. "I am Efe." In that single moment, as their names hung in the air between them, the incredible truth became undeniable. It was not a coincidence. It was not a trick. The shared face, the shared adoption, the missing pieces of both their lives, it all snapped into a perfect, heart-breaking picture. They were two halves of a whole. They were sisters. Tari's defiant posture finally broke. The strength seemed to drain from her legs and she leaned against the mud wall for support, her eyes never leaving Efe's. The reality of her captivity, the confusion of the past weeks, all of it was suddenly overshadowed by this monumental discovery. The arrogant billionaire CEO was gone, replaced by a vulnerable, astonished woman seeing a ghost from a past she wasn't sure of. Efe felt a tear trace a path through the dust on her cheek. She wasn't just looking at a stranger. She was looking at family. For the first time in her life, she was looking at someone who shared her blood, her history, her very face. The search for her roots had ended here, in this dark room, with this mirror image. Without a back glance at the stunned Kofi family, Efe and Tari walked out of the compound together. The villagers they passed stared openly at the two identical women, but the sisters were locked in their own world of shock. Stella, ever practical, led them to the back room of her Ibri, a quiet and safe space. For a long moment, they just sat, studying each other's faces in the clear light, seeing the subtle differences life had carved into their identical features. I came to Ibere for the oil land deal. I lost my phone, and then those people, they thought I was you. They kept calling me Efe. Efe nodded slowly. And in the city, everyone thought I was you. Your parents picked me up from the eatery where I worked. They brought me into their home. Tari's eyes widened in disbelief, but it was quickly overshadowed by a more personal horror. My parents! They just accepted you? They didn't even know I was missing? They thought you were there, Efe explained gently. They thought the stress of a personal discovery had changed your behavior. What discovery? Tari asked, her voice sharp. Efe took a deep breath. They believe you found your adoption papers, Tari. They think that's why you were acting so differently. The color drained from Tari's face. Adopted? She let out a short, brittle laugh. That's impossible. I am Tari Okuta, the only child, the heiress to Okuta oil. She stood up, pacing the small room, her arms crossed tightly across her chest as if holding herself together. Her whole life, the company, my position, everyone respected me, feared me. And you're telling me they just moved on? That my parents replaced me with a lookalike and didn't even realize I was gone? The injustice of it was a physical blow. Her life's work, her identity felt like it was crumbling. I have to go back, Tari declared suddenly, stopping her pacing. Her eyes were hard with a mixture of hurt and determination. I need to look them in the eye and hear the truth from them myself. I need to know who I am. Ife understood. This was a journey Tari had to make alone. You should go, she said softly. They are your parents. You need your answers. And you? Tari asked, looking at her twin. You're not coming? Ife glanced out the small window towards the Kofi compound. My answers are here, Tari. The woman who raised me, she mentioned the necklace that was with me when I was found. I need to know more. I need to find out where we truly came from. She chose not to mention Amaka's dramatic reaction. That was a separate mystery she needed to unravel on her own before sharing it. I will reach out when I am ready. Tari nodded, her mind already racing ahead to the confrontation in the city. The sisters, reunited for mere minutes, were already parting ways. Tari returning to challenge the life she knew, and Ife staying to unearth the life they had lost. Tari stood before the Grand Okuta mansion, a place that had always meant power and belonging. Now, it felt different. The secret of her adoption sat like a heavy stone in her heart. When she walked inside, her parents rushed to greet her. Their faces were filled with love and relief. Tari, you're home, her mother exclaimed, hugging her tightly. We are so glad you are back, and yourself again, her father said, a warm smile on his face. They had noticed the change in her posture and her sharp tone immediately. To them, it meant their strong, confident daughter had returned from Ibere and gotten over the shock of her adoption. Tari was glad to be home, but she decided to wait before telling them she was the real Tari and not the gentle girl they had hosted. For now, she would just enjoy being back. As the day went on, the household staff quickly realized the real Tari was back. She gave orders firmly, her voice crisp and authoritative. Her parents simply smiled, relieved that what they saw as her confusion was over. That evening, Tari proudly announced, The Ibere trip was a success. I have secured the oil land deal. The look of pure pride on her parents' faces made her heart swell. Seizing the moment, she carefully asked, "Can you tell me more about my adoption? I think I am ready to know." Her mother gently explained, "The nurse who brought you to us said your birth mother died giving birth to you. Your birth father had passed away before you were born. But please know, you are our daughter. That will never change." Tari listened, her mind racing. She wanted to tell them everything about Efe, about the twin sister she never knew. But she knew that was a story she had to share with Efe first. It was not her secret to tell alone. The next day, Tari returned to her office at Okuta Oil. She immediately noticed the strange looks from her staff. They studied her with a mix of caution and confusion. It was clear that Efe, while pretending to be her, had done things very differently. Curious, she looked over the company reports from the past few weeks. To her astonishment, she saw a period of massive accomplishment. Projects were finished ahead of schedule and morale was high. She learned that Efe had been kind to everyone, from the junior interns to the security guards. Her method of respect and encouragement gotten better results than Tari's own style of fear and demands. She even heard about Efe's close friendship with Amaka, the office cleaner. Tari couldn't understand it. Why be nice to a cleaner? But the evidence was undeniable. Efe's kindness had worked. Meanwhile, Amaka had returned to work after her fainting spell. She watched Tari from a distance. The mean boss was back. The other girl, the kind one with the necklace, was gone. Amaka's heart ached. She needed to find that girl, Efe. She needed to ask where she got that necklace. The memory of it was burned into her mind. She had given one just like it to one of her baby girls before a wicked nurse told her that they had died. Could it be that her twins were never dead? Was she lied to all those years ago? Could Tari, her difficult boss, be one of her daughters? The thought was overwhelming, but Tari was so hard to approach. She was cold and proud. How could she ever get close enough to ask? And how would she ever find Efe again to learn the truth? Back in Ibere, Efe sat with Stella in the quiet of the eatery after the day's work. She poured out the whole story, the stunning luxury of the Okuta mansion, the overwhelming kindness of Tari's parents, the heavy guilt of her deception, and finally, Amaka's shocking faint at the sight of her simple wooden necklace. Stella listened, her eyes wide opened. Then this Amaka, she must know something. Perhaps she knows about the necklace, or even who your birth parents are. You're right, Efe agreed, a new determination settling in her. But first, I need to hear it from the Kofis. I need every piece of the story. Later, she walked to the Kofi compound. Mama and Papa Kofi watched her approach, their expressions a mixture of shame and confusion. The girl they always treated as a burden now carried herself with a new unshakable confidence. They had thought she would always be nothing, but she had educated herself, built a life in the city, and now had a powerful twin sister. They assumed she had discovered wealthy parents and had come to gloat. "We are sorry, Efe," Papa Kofi began, wringing his hands. "We were wrong to treat you so poorly. We can try to make it right." Efe cut him off, her voice calm but firm. "I did not come for an apology. I came for the truth. How did you get me? Tell me everything." Shaken by her directness, they told her. A nurse from a city hospital had brought her to them as a newborn. The nurse had said the baby's mother died in childbirth and the father had died in an accident before the birth. There was no other family. Efe listened, her heart growing cold. The story was identical to the one the Okutas had told Tari. A mother dead from childbirth, a father dead before the birth. In that moment, she knew Stella was right. The answer was not in Ibere. It was with Amaka. The woman's reaction to the necklace was the key to unlocking the past. Without another word to the Kofis, Efe turned. She had to go back to the city. She had to find Amaka and demand the truth. Efe returned to the city, but she was careful. She found a small room in a quiet part of town where no one would see her and mistake her for Tari. Once she was settled, she called Tari and told her everything about Amaka fainting at the sight of her necklace. "She knows something about it, Tari," Efe explained. "We need to talk to her. Can you bring her to meet me?" After work, Tari walked over to where Amaka was cleaning. Her old habits were hard to break. "You, cleaner, come with me," she said, her tone still demanding. Amaka was surprised, but she followed without a word. Her heart beat fast. Who did Tari want her to meet? Could it be the other girl, the kind one with her necklace? Tari led her to a small, quiet restaurant. When they entered, Efe stood up from a corner table. A warm smile spread on her face when she saw Amaka. "Amaka, I am so happy to see you," Efe said, gently hugging the older woman. Tari watched them, a strange feeling in her chest. She saw the easy friendship between them, a bond she herself had never offered. It was a heartbreaking sight. Amaka looked from Tari's cold, proud face to Efe's kind, open one. The resemblance between the two young women was stunning. A wild, hopeful thought began to grow in her mind. Could they be? They sat down. Tari ordered drinks for everyone, her movements sharp with nervous energy. Efe turned to Amaka, her voice soft. "How are you feeling? I was so worried after you fainted." "I am better, my child. Thank you for your care," Amaka replied, her eyes already filling with tears. "Amaka," Efe began gently, touching the wooden pendant around her neck. "Can you please tell us about this necklace? Why did it shock you so much?" Amaka took a deep, shaky breath. The story she had held inside for over 20 years began to pour out. "I lost my loving husband in a car accident when I was pregnant with our twins. I was all alone. I suffered, but I carried my babies, thinking of them as his last gift to me. I had a necklace, a special pendant my husband had carved for me. I was so happy, but so sad he wasn't there. So I gave one of my babies this necklace to have a piece of him with her." Her voice broke. Then a nurse came to me. She told me my babies had died. She said I should not see their bodies. I never did. I cried and cried with no one to console me. I lost everything in one day. She looked directly at Efe's necklace. "So when I saw it on you, I was shocked. That is the very one. My husband made it. I could never forget it." A stunned silence fell over the table. Tari was frozen, her sharp mind struggling to process the story. The pieces were falling into a picture she could barely believe. Our adoptive parents," Tari whispered, her voice hoarse. "They told us, a nurse gave us to them. They said our mother died when we were born." Amaka's hands flew to her mouth, a sob escaping. "They lied. I never died. I was right here, mourning you." The truth hit Tari with the force of a physical blow. This woman she had bullied and looked down upon was her real mother. The weight of her own cruelty crashed down on her. "Mama?" Tari whispered. With a cry of overwhelming emotion, Tari fell to her knees on the restaurant floor. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry for the way I treated you," she wept. Amaka rushed to her, pulling both Tari and Efe into a tight, tearful embrace. "My babies," she cried, holding them close. "My beautiful girls. I thought I lost you forever." In that quiet restaurant, the three women held each other, their tears washing away years of pain, separation, and lies. A family, torn apart by a cruel nurse, was finally whole again. That evening, Tari's car pulled up to the Okuta mansion. When the door opened, the first person to step out was Tari. The guards and servants at the door nodded in recognition, but then a second Tari stepped out, wearing a simple dress and a warm smile. A collective gasp went through the staff. Finally, Amaka, the cleaner, emerged holding herself with a new, quiet dignity. The three women walked inside. Mr. and Mrs. Okuta, who had come to greet Tari, froze in the doorway. Their eyes darted between the two identical faces, their minds refusing to process what they were seeing. What is happening?" Mrs. Okuta stammered, her hand flying to her chest. "Tari, there are two of you?" "Please sit down," Tari said, her voice calm but firm. "We have something very important to tell you." Once everyone was seated in the living room, Tari began the incredible story. "The girl you brought home from the restaurant was not me. It was her. Her name is Efe. I was having some challenges at Ibere and was later held hostage by her adoptive father, who thought I was her." She explained how Efe, upon learning from her source in Ibere that Tari might be in danger, had bravely returned to the village to rescue her. Mr. Okuta looked at Efe, his eyes wide with amazement. "You did that? You went back for her?" Efe simply nodded. Then Tari delivered the second, even greater shock. She placed the DNA test results on the table. "And this is Amaka. We have confirmed it. She is our birth mother. The nurse who gave us to you lied. We were not orphans. We were stolen from her." Mrs. Okuta burst into tears. Mr. Okuta looked at Amaka, his face a mask of horror and sympathy. "All these years, we had no idea," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We are so deeply sorry for what you have suffered." They thanked Efe, overwhelmed by her role in the miracle. "Your kindness to Amaka when no one else showed her any," Mrs. Okuta said, taking Efe's hand. "It was that kindness that led us all to this truth." In a beautiful act of grace, the Okutas did not see Amaka and Efe as a threat, but as a blessing. They immediately invited Amaka to live with them as part of the family. "You are the girl's mother," Mr. Okuta declared. "You belong with them." They also formally brought Efe into their home, welcoming her not as an imposter, but as a second daughter. Turning to Efe, Tari, her voice softer than it had ever been, made a business proposal. "I need you at the company with me. Whatever you did while you were in my office, it led to huge accomplishments. I need to learn that. I need your help to run things." Efe's heart was full. She had a family, a birth mother in Amaka, and adoptive parents in the Okuta who welcomed her with open arms. She had a sister. To complete her happiness, she brought her loyal friend Stella from Ibere to the city, ensuring she got a good job and a new life. In the end, the Okuta mansion was no longer just a house for a billionaire and his wife. It became a true home, filled with the laughter and love of a family that was broken by a cruel lie but was made whole again by an unexpected journey, a simple necklace, and the power of kindness.